Are you sure you're the best one to build the systems for your business? You sure about this? Because this is an important question. This is a question that stops a lot of business owners from actually building systems at all. The task is so overwhelming, they're like, oh man, I'm not even going to begin. And instead, just continue to do business as they always have, which is by telling their team what to do. Their team hears it to some degree, kind of does some work, comes back, checks it with you. It's not right, there's mistakes, there's errors. Now you end up with firefighting, having to redo work, having to have your team lose confidence in communication. Nobody knows what everyone's doing. There's no understanding of what could come later. And so they just solve whatever small part of the problem that they see, not realizing what's coming later on. But this is easier in the short term than learning how to build systems, learning how to document systems, learning how to execute systems. And you see, this comes back to the belief that you are the one that's going to have to build them all. You're like, oh my goodness, there's like 100, 150 systems. I don't even know how to build one system, and you want me to build 150 of them? No, this is impossible. And we already tried this before and it didn't work. I'm like, oh really? Really? It didn't work. Okay. Why didn't it work? Was that because you didn't know what you were doing, or you didn't have the right tools, or perhaps you just didn't stick with it long enough? I don't know. I know out there the perception is that systems are hard. And it is because of this perception. And it is true until you see the essential insight that systems create results. You're like, oh my goodness, what is a system? Well, it's something that creates a result. And how do you get results? Well, presumably you did something. You did some work. You did some work, or even better, not you did work. You didn't do anything. Your team did the work. And they executed on the instructions and the work got done. And this leaves you then to decide on where you are going as the business. You're back in the captain's seat, charting the course and then navigating the boat, but you're not down in the engine room, leaving the captain's chair unmanned while you go and shovel some coal in, while you go and try and serve the customers in the dining room. No, your role is up in the captain's helm. This is your role. This is what you're meant to be doing. But in order for the rest of your team to understand what they're going to do, you're going to need documented systems. But the interesting thing I want you to see is who builds these systems, who looks after these systems. Should it be you? Perhaps the original insight of how to do this should be from you. But after that, guess who knows this work better than you? They do. Your team do. And the cool thing about building systems is you can start pretty rough and they'll get better with time if your team are the ones to build them and your team are the ones to improve them. And then suddenly you've got documentation. And if someone gets sick or someone gets headhunted or somebody leaves, that all of your systems IP of how the work of your business gets done does not walk out the door when that happens. There have been businesses that have had to close in COVID-19. Presumably, hey, it's possible either someone has long COVID or even someone died. And with them, if they had not documented it, if they didn't know how to run their business on systems, then that person was not easy to replace. This is not something that you want. This leaves you vulnerable to change, and it prevents you from ever going on holiday. You are a slave to your business. You must be there. You must be part of your business. Otherwise, you and your business will not work. This is what you don't want. So, who should build systems? I'd encourage you that once you know how to build them, that your job is to then delegate this and say, hey, I want it done like this, and your team can build them. I have this too. I have my team do this. I'm like, hey, okay, I want this step recorded, record, and then they turn it into the documentation. And this is just a repetitive pattern. My team actually get really annoyed because in the early stages, when there's not much detail, they're like, what do you want us to do? All there is will be 3 process names. I'm like, oh, okay, let me build that out for you. But it depends on who's your team. Some work will need to be organized by you. Some work will need to be defined by you. Some of your team will be perfectly capable of building out purely from the results. They're like, okay, hang on, here's the result that we want. What are the processes that need to be done here? Some of your team will not be like that. If you have overseas VAs, then perhaps they need more work lined out until at least they get the hang of it. And they're like, oh, hang on, I see the results here. I see the link between the processes and the results. And that is the insight that you are looking for. That a system is nothing more than sequentially executed steps that lead to results. Some of those results your customers will not see. Some of the results your customers will see. But irrespective, the general idea of what a system is documented procedures that lead to the results. You see, systems create results. And they do this by the execution by your team of this documented procedures. If you need some help with this, if you're like, no, how does this all fit together? So that you can have a systemized business that produces profits for you, that is fun to run, that has great people because they rarely make mistakes. Why? Because they use the instructions, they use the procedures, and you provide great results for your customers. Then head over to systemio.dev. Thanks for tuning in today. Hope you got a lot of value out of today's session. I certainly enjoyed making it for you as we continue this journey into the power of systems to create results. See you next time.